We begin this hour with Washington now blocking the sale of the F-35 to Turkey in retaliation for that country purchasing weapons from Russia. And that's not all. RT Sayeh Tavangar is joining us live from the studio with the latest threats coming from President Trump. Sayeh.
Yes, the U.S. is criticizing Turkey's decision to buy Russia's S-400 missile defense system in remarks that broke days of White House silence over Turkey's controversial purchase. And now President Trump announced the U.S. would not be selling Turkey F-35 fighter jets.
We have a situation where Turkey is very good with us, very good, and we are now telling Turkey that because you have really been forced to buy another missile system, we're not going to sell you the F-35 fighter jets. It's a very tough situation that they're in, and it's a very tough situation that we've been placed in, the United States. With all of that being said, we're working through it. We'll see what happens, but it's not really fair.
Trump administration has repeatedly told Turkey, which is a NATO member, that they would be cut off from buying F-35s and could face sanctions if they buy the Russian air defense system. The U.S. says the S-400 is not compatible with NATO defenses and could jeopardize sensitive information about F-35 technologies, which could potentially end up in Russia's hands. Turkey, on the other hand, says the S-400 would not pose any threat to NATO.
The S-400s, they don't pose a threat to NATO systems, including the F-35s. It's a system that will be completely under our control, Turkey's control. And it's a system when we need a defense. There's no reason to create needless tension.
But more than technology is at stake here. Turkey has long been a key to the defense of NATO's southeastern flank, and some believe its willingness to buy key weapons from Russia, long identified as NATO's main rival, suggests the possibility its alliance status is in jeopardy and that the S-400 purchase would lead to Turkish strategic and economic overdependence on Russia, something the U.S. doesn't want. Now, currently, 12 countries are purchasing F-35s, and now they include U.S., Turkey, U.K., Italy, Netherlands, Canada, Australia, and Norway. Now, of all these countries, except for Canada, Denmark, and Turkey, are already receiving deliveries of the F-35. Now, Israel, Japan, and South Korea have also acquired the fighter jets, but through foreign military sales. Now, 5 countries currently have agreed to purchase the S-400 and include China, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, India, and Qatar. But none of the 5 countries buying the S-400 are actually part of NATO. So buying a system like the S-400 would lead to fewer technological issues, but they could still risk some kind of diplomatic retaliation from the U.S. and NATO. Currently, Turkey has 100 of the F-35 jet fighters on order, but it's very unlikely they would receive any of them. So as it stands today, U.S. is sending a clear message to Turkey. You can either buy the S-400 or the F-35, but not both. And it seems Turkey has chosen, yet still being threatened with sanctions from the U.S. Manila, back to you.
And for more on this topic, we're being joined now by former Pentagon official Mike Maloof. So, Mike, Turkey has been an F-35 program partner since 1999. The Pentagon has been working on this thing for over 20 years. But now, with the Russian S-400 defense system coming into play, Congress has even added wording into the fiscal year 2020 NDAA to block Turkey from acquiring the fighter jet. What do you see as Turkey's next move?
I think Turkey's going to hold the course. They are walking a very thin line, of course, and of course this latest action, I think. Something's very intriguing that's developing behind the scenes on all this. Even though components for the S-400 to come in, sanctions are supposed to kick in under legislation that was CATA, as it's called, because Turkey purchased a Russian weapons system. However, Trump has reneged on that because of his personal relationship with Erdogan. And I think maybe he's trying to look for a resolution of this problem in order to, down the line, not implement those sanctions, even though his friends Bolton and Pompeo are really pushing for sanctions, and you have the Hill people also pushing for sanctions. But Trump doesn't have to implement immediately, and I don't see that happening. But Erdogan has made a decision, and I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to carry through with that. Yeah,
that's a good point. We've not really heard the president say too much about Turkey at this point. But it's the DoD's beef, though, with Turkey buying this S-400, because they say this S-400 system will be able to gather data on their F-35 capabilities, the technology, and that they're afraid it'll end up in Russian hands. Is that a legitimate concern?
Well, that may be one area where they could explore how to limit that access. Are Russian technicians at all going to be involved in handling that system? Unknown. And as the Prime Minister of Turkey said, it'll be under the exclusive jurisdiction of the Turkish military. Is that an opening, perhaps, that they might be able to introduce something, but and allow for that S-400, this exception, so as not to basically sanction Turkey and foist them further eastward? But right now, and the reason why Turkey is being told they cannot buy that system is that it's a NATO requirement. They got to have standardization. They can purchase from within. Of course, that consolidates things for the U.S. Arms export market. Exactly,
being the major maker.
Yeah, but here again, it should not be. Erdogan's argument is, I should be able to go out and buy weapons anywhere I want.
Right.
And the fact that he's a NATO member, and I think the fact, too, that he's occupying the eastern flank, has the most military personnel. Strategic reasons, it's really important that he stays in NATO from the Western standpoint. For President Putin.
Right, it's important for NATO to keep them happy.
Yes, but for President Putin, he's overjoyed with this development.
And now, Mike, there's also drama in the leadership of the F-35 program. Shakeups and managers here. U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Eric Fick will now relieve Vice Admiral Matt Winter, switching military branches to head up the jet project. This thing has had billions and billions of cost overruns already in the past 20 years. How do you see this management shakeup perhaps altering the development?
I don't think it really matters who's in charge. The fundamental the F-35 has fundamental technical problems.
Yeah.
And if they keep adding more and more technologies to it, on the one hand, and frankly the stealth capabilities of it are also questionable. You have, for example, on the technology side, the stealth is actually bubbling up and at high speeds. It cannot go fast for a sustained period of time. Now, people say, well, the Russian aircraft, fourth generation, is better. Well, it's a different type of aircraft altogether. I mean, you got to look at their capabilities and what their
intention is.
What their missions are.
Yeah.
They're totally different. Now, what could happen, because Turkey might be excluded from the F-35, Turkey may go ahead and purchase Russian jets.
Buy more Russian stuff.
And they've already, as I understand the F-400 deal, they may have a contractual arrangement with Moscow to co-produce the so-called S-500. So that's a possibility. So somehow Moscow is going to have to help Turkey replenish what it's losing as a result of the loss from the F-35, because you have hundreds of, maybe thousands of Turks who are employed for the F-35 program.
Yeah.
So
they ordered 100 of them.
Yeah, and I might add one other thing. U.S. did offer the Patriot. What happened early on? This was the Turkish argument. Well, they didn't give us the Patriot missile.
Okay.
What happened was that Turkey demanded the source coding of how to program the Patriot. And generally, as a rule, the U.S. does not provide source code on programming of weapons systems like that. but Turkey was demanding it, and that's what delayed that process. And as a consequence, they turned to the S-400.
So this is a fallout, a residual fallout from the Obama era.
Yes, it is. It basically is. They refused to turn over the source code. Turkey was demanding the source code. That's a very serious tech transfer requirement. And it shows, too, the U.S. doesn't trust Turkey enough to turn it over to them. That's another possibility.
There you go. All right. That's why you're here, to share your expertise with us. Mike Maloof, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.